Dwayne "Keefe D. Davis is standing trial in Las Vegas, charged with first-degree murder with a deadly weapon in connection to the September 7, 1996 drive-by shooting that killed Tupac Shakur. And if you thought the road to get to this courtroom was already wild, wait until you hear what's shaping up inside it. Because Suge Knight is threatening to make prosecutors regret putting him on the stand, and this thing hasn't even fully gotten started yet. Let's back up and get everybody on the same page, because this story has a lot of moving pieces and it deserves the full breakdown. Tupac Amaru Shakur was shot multiple times on the night of September 7, 1996 in Las Vegas, Nevada. He had just attended the Mike Tyson vs. Bruce Seldon heavyweight boxing match at the MGM Grand, and he was riding in a black BMW driven by Death Row Records founder Marion Suge Knight when a white Cadillac pulled alongside them and opened fire. Tupac was hit multiple times. He was rushed to University Medical Center where he held on for 6 days before dying on September 13, 1996. He was 25 years old. Suge Knight survived the shooting with a fragment wound to his head. For nearly 3 decades, this case sat cold. No arrests, no charges, a lot of rumors, a lot of documentaries, a lot of investigative journalism, but no criminal accountability. That started to change in September 2023 when Las Vegas Metropolitan Police arrested Dwayne Davis, known on the streets and in hip-hop circles as Keefe D, on that first-degree murder with a deadly weapon charge. Davis was the uncle of Orlando "Baby Lane" Anderson, who had been identified by investigators as the alleged shooter. Anderson was killed in 1998 in an unrelated shooting, so he never faced charges. Davis, however, is very much alive, and he is now sitting in a Las Vegas courtroom facing a charge that carries serious consequences. Davis has pleaded not guilty, and he has been very vocal about his position, publicly stating that he will not be taking a plea deal. Whatever happens in that courtroom, Keefe D has said he intends to fight this thing out. Now, the trial was originally scheduled to begin on February 9, 2026. That date came and went without jury selection, because the defense successfully argued they needed additional time to go through the enormous volume of material prosecutors intend to introduce. We're talking decades of interviews, police reports, and statements that have accumulated over the course of what has been one of the longest-running unsolved high-profile cases in American history. That's not a small ask. When you're talking about a murder investigation that stretched from 1996 into the 2020s, the paper trail alone is substantial. The court agreed to push things back, and the trial is now underway the week of August 10, 2026. So here we are, nearly 30 years later, and the city of Las Vegas, the hip-hop community, and really just people all over the world who grew up with Tupac's music are paying close attention. Now let's talk about the piece of this story that is generating the most immediate buzz, and that is Suge Knight. Suge Knight, for context, is currently serving a 28-year prison sentence following a 2018 voluntary manslaughter conviction related to a separate incident. He was not charged in connection with Tupac's murder, but he was in that car, he was driving, he was there, and that makes him a potential witness in a way that very few people in this case can be. He was an eyewitness to the shooting itself. Now, prosecutors may call Suge Knight to testify, and Suge has responded to that possibility in a way that is, to put it mildly, very Suge Knight. He has reportedly said that he could make prosecutors regret calling him to testify. That's the quote that is circulating, that he could make them regret it. What does that mean exactly? That part is unclear. Suge Knight is not exactly known for being straightforward and cooperative with law enforcement or prosecutors under any circumstances, and that has been true throughout his entire public life. Whether he is suggesting that his testimony would undermine the prosecution's case, whether he is hinting that he would be an uncooperative or combative witness, or whether this is more of a vague threat designed to create pressure and uncertainty, we don't know. What we do know is that having Suge Knight on the witness stand in any trial is unpredictable by definition. His relationship to this case, his personal history, his current circumstances as an incarcerated individual, all of that makes him one of the most combustible wild cards imaginable in a courtroom setting. And think about what it would mean for the prosecution if their eyewitness to the crime scene decided to be uncooperative, evasive, or openly adversarial on the stand. That is a genuine complication. Prosecutors generally want their witnesses working with them, not against them. If Suge Knight sits down in that witness box and decides he would rather play games than give straightforward testimony, that could create real problems for the state's case. At the same time, defense attorneys are highly skilled at working with what witnesses give them, and an uncooperative prosecution witness can sometimes open doors for the defense that would otherwise stay closed. This is why people are watching this trial so carefully. It is genuinely unpredictable. On a completely different note, there is another wrinkle in this case that deserves attention, and that involves Keefe D's memoir and a jailhouse phone call. Davis wrote a memoir, and that memoir has become a significant issue in the legal proceedings. The defense has raised arguments related to the authorship of that memoir, suggesting that a ghostwriter was involved in its creation. The implication, as it relates to the trial, is presumably about how much of what's in that book reflects Davis's own words and admissions versus the work of someone else helping him shape the narrative. But here's where it gets complicated. There is reportedly a jailhouse call that complicates that ghostwriter claim. What exactly was said on that call, how it intersects with the memoir defense, and what prosecutors intend to do with it are details that are still emerging. But the existence of a jailhouse call that appears to work against the defense's own argument about the memoir is the kind of thing that can matter a great deal in front of a jury. Jailhouse calls have a way of being very, very candid in ways that are not always helpful to the person who made them. This is something we will absolutely be watching as the trial develops. And then there is Maprem Shakur. Tupac's stepbrother has been a voice throughout this entire process, someone who has lived with this loss for nearly 30 years, who has had to watch investigators and journalists circle this case without it ever resulting in a courtroom moment. Maprem has now said that he is, quote, cautiously optimistic that the trial will reveal the truth. That phrase, cautiously optimistic, says a lot. It is not unbridled hope. It is not certainty. It is the measured, careful feeling of someone who has been through enough disappointment and enough waiting that they are not going to let themselves get too far ahead of the process. But there is still hope there. There is still a belief that this trial could provide something that has been missing for 3 decades: accountability, answers, and a clearer picture of what actually happened on that Las Vegas Strip in 1996. That cautious optimism is something a lot of people share right now. Because here is the thing: this trial being real, Keefe D actually sitting in that courtroom, witnesses being called, evidence being presented, this is more than most people ever thought they would see. For a long time, the conventional wisdom was that this case would never be prosecuted, that too much time had passed, that too many key figures were dead or uncooperative, that the political and social dynamics around Death Row Records and West Coast rap in the 1990s made this effectively untouchable. And yet here we are. The trial is happening, and however it unfolds, it represents a moment for Tupac's family, for his fans, for people who care about justice regardless of when it comes or how long it takes to arrive. We are going to be following every development as this trial moves forward: the testimony, the evidence, the legal arguments, and whatever Suge Knight decides to do when and if he takes that stand. This story is going to continue to move fast, and we are going to be right here breaking it down for you every step of the way. If you want to make sure you don't miss a single update on this trial or any of the other stories we cover, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications. And if you've got thoughts on this, on Suge's comments, on Keefe D's decision to fight the charges, on Maprem's words about justice, drop them in the comments below. We read every single one. Until the next video, stay up.